I spent the night with my mistress. Came home at 4 a.m. expecting to find my wife asleep, resigned, silent like she'd been for months. Instead, I found an empty penthouse, stripped of every trace of her, and a letter that destroyed me more thoroughly than any bullet ever could. Raphael, I'm filing for divorce. Please don't look for me. I wish you well. Doris, my name is Raphael Carrillo. I'm a Mafia boss who controls half the East Coast. And my wife just walked away like I was nothing. This is the story of how I lost the only thing that mattered because I was too arrogant to understand I was losing it. Before we dive into Raphael's downfall, you need to subscribe because this story is about a powerful man who thought his wife would accept his cheating forever, until she disappeared and destroyed him in the quietest, most devastating way possible. No screaming, no drama, just pure strategic revenge that left him emotionally ruined. Hit that subscribe button because this is the kind of justice story that will have you cheering for the wife who knew exactly when to walk away. Let's begin. Let me tell you something about power. When you control territories worth billions, when politicians take your calls, when your name makes grown men nervous, you start believing you're untouchable, that the normal rules don't apply to you, that you can have everything you want without consequences. I believed that for 42 years. I was wrong. My name is Raphael Carrillo. I run the Carrillo crime family. Legitimate businesses fronting for operations that would land most people in federal prison, territories spanning 5 states, influence reaching into government offices people assume are clean. I've built an empire through strategy, violence when necessary, and the fundamental understanding that power respects power. In my world, I'm untouchable, or I was, until the night my wife left me. Her name is Doris Vale. We married 3 years ago when she was 28 and I was 39. She came from a legitimate business family. Her father owned a shipping company I'd done deals with, and when I met her at some charity gala, she looked at me like I was just a man instead of the monster everyone else saw. I should have known then she was different. Should have protected that. Instead, I destroyed it systematically over 3 years of marriage while convincing myself I was being reasonable. Because here's what I told myself. Powerful men have mistresses. It's not personal. It's just what we do. The stress of running an empire, the weight of constant violence, the need for distraction. These things require outlets. Doris was my wife. Beautiful, elegant, perfect for business dinners and charity events. Vanessa was my mistress. Convenient, uncomplicated, forgettable. I thought I could have both. I thought Doris would understand that this was the price of being married to someone like me. I thought her silence meant acceptance. I was catastrophically wrong. For 3 years, I came home smelling like someone else's perfume. Made excuses that got lazier over time because I stopped bothering to hide it. Watching Doris's smile fade incrementally, her eyes grow distant, her presence in our home become more ghost than person. And I told myself she was fine with it, that she'd chosen this life and everything that came with it, that her quietness was submission rather than strategy. 3 months ago, Doris came home early from a charity event and found me in our bed with Vanessa. She stood in the doorway for exactly 5 seconds. Didn't scream. Didn't cry, didn't make a scene, just looked at me with eyes that held something worse than anger. Disappointment mixed with relief, like she'd finally confirmed her worst suspicions and could stop hoping I was better than I actually was. Then she turned around and walked out, closing the door so quietly I barely heard it. I waited for the confrontation, the tears, the demands, the typical wife discovers infidelity drama. It never came. Instead, Doris acted normal, made coffee in the mornings, asked about my day, smiled when appropriate. I thought I'd gotten away with it. I thought she'd accepted who I was. I didn't realize she was counting down to the day she'd leave me. Last night, I spent the evening with Vanessa like I had dozens of times before. Expensive dinner, her apartment in the city, the kind of empty intimacy that fills time without meaning anything. I came home at 4 a.m. The penthouse was dark, silent. Normal. I walked through our home, 3,500 square feet overlooking the city, worth $8 million, decorated by designers who charged more than most people make in a year. It took me 10 minutes to understand why the silence felt different. Doris was gone. Not out. Gone. Her clothes are missing from the closet. Her books are absent from the shelves. Her perfume is no longer on the bathroom counter. Every trace of her existence was removed so thoroughly it was like she'd never been there. And on our bed, the bed I'd stopped sleeping in months ago because her sadness made me uncomfortable, I found one envelope. My name in her handwriting. Inside, the shortest letter I've ever read. Rafael, I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will contact yours. Please don't look for me. I wish you well. Doris. No acquiescence. No anger. No tears. Just a polite final goodbye. And standing there in our empty penthouse, holding that letter, I realized something that's haunted me every day since. I'd underestimated my wife completely. Her silence wasn't a weakness. It was strategy. And by the time I understood that, she was already gone. I came home at 4 a.m. to silence. Not unusual. Doris had learned over 3 years of marriage not to wait up for me, not to ask where I'd been, not to make scenes about my late nights that smelled like someone else's perfume. I trained her well, I thought. The penthouse was dark except for the city lights filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. 3,500 square feet of luxury overlooking Manhattan. Every surface worth more than most people's annual salary. This was what power looked like. I dropped my keys on the marble entryway table, loosened my tie. My shirt still smelled faintly of Vanessa's perfume, something floral and cloying that I'd stopped noticing years ago. Doris, I called out of habit, not expecting an answer. Silence. I walked through the living room toward our bedroom, already mentally rehearsing tomorrow's schedule. I had a meeting with the Russian suppliers at 10, needed to handle some territory disputes on the south side, and probably should make an appearance at whatever charity thing Doris had mentioned last week. The bedroom door was open. The lights were off. I flipped the switch, expecting to find Doris asleep. The bed was empty, made perfectly like a hotel room, but empty. Doris. I checked the bathroom. Dark. Empty. Maybe she'd gone to stay with her sister. We'd had words last week about something. I couldn't remember what. She'd been upset. I'd been dismissive. She'd gone quiet. The usual pattern. I was heading back to check the guest room when I noticed something was wrong. The closet door was open. Her side was empty. Completely empty. Not, I'm staying with family for a few days, empty. This was every piece of clothing removed, empty. My heart rate picked up. I walked faster through the penthouse, checking rooms with increasing urgency. Her books, gone from the library. Her toiletries, absent from the bathroom. Her photographs, removed from the mantel. Every trace of Doris Vale was systematically erased from our home. I stood in our bedroom, my bedroom now, apparently, trying to process what I was seeing. That's when I noticed the envelope on the bed. White, expensive stationery. My name in her elegant handwriting. I picked it up with hands that had killed men without trembling, but now shook opening a letter from my wife. Inside, one sheet of paper. Short message. Rafael, I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will contact yours. Please don't look for me. I wish you well. Doris. That's it. No acquiescence. No list of my failures. No tears or anger or emotion. Just a polite, professional goodbye. I read it 3 times, waiting for the anger to hit. Or panic. Or something. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Genuine fear. Because Doris, quiet, submissive, resigned Doris, had just done something I didn't think she was capable of. She'd left me. Not threatened to leave. Not demanded I change. Just left. And standing there in our empty penthouse at 4:30 in the morning, holding a divorce note that read like a resignation letter, I realized I'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. I'd thought Doris's silence meant she'd accepted my infidelity. It meant she'd been planning her escape. I spent the next 6 hours tearing apart our home looking for clues. Her laptop gone. Her phone disconnected. Her personal documents missing. I called her cell. Number no longer in service. I called her sister. Straight to voicemail. I called her father. His secretary said he was unavailable. By noon, I'd exhausted every obvious contact and was moving into territory I hadn't accessed in years. Actual investigation. I called Vincent, my head of security. I need you to find someone. Who? My wife. Pause on the other end. Boss, did something happen? She left. I need her found. Use whatever resources necessary. Understood. I'll have something by tonight. Vincent was good. Former FBI, knew how to track people who didn't want to be found. He'd find Doris. Then I'd figure out what the hell had happened. But as I sat in my office, surrounded by the trappings of power that suddenly felt meaningless, a memory surfaced. 3 months ago, Doris coming home early from some charity event. I'd lost track of the schedule, thought I had the place to myself, had brought Vanessa back to our penthouse because the apartment I kept for her was being renovated. Stupid, reckless, arrogant. Doris had walked in on us. In our bed. I'd frozen, waiting for the explosion. Instead, Doris had stood in the doorway for exactly 5 seconds. Her face had done something complicated, shock, then hurt, then something worse. Resignation. Like she'd been expecting this and was almost relieved to have confirmation. Then she turned around and walked out. Closed the door quietly. Didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. I'd waited for her to come back. To confront me. To demand explanations. She never did. Instead, she made me coffee the next morning. Asked about my day that evening. Acted completely normal. I'd thought she'd accepted it. Understood that this was how our marriage worked. Now, sitting in my office with her divorce letter, I understood the truth. She hadn't accepted anything. She'd been planning. Every day of normalcy had been a countdown to this moment. Every smile had been a mask while she built her exit strategy. And I'd been too arrogant to see it. Too confident that my power was enough to keep her. Too stupid to understand that silence isn't submission. Sometimes it's just strategy. Vincent called at 8 p.m. Boss, I got a problem. What kind of problem? Your wife is good. Really good. She closed all her social media accounts 3 weeks ago. Changed her phone number through a provider I can't trace. Her credit cards haven't been used. Her bank accounts are empty. She withdrew everything in cash over the past month. Where is she? I don't know. Yet. But boss, there's something else. Talk. She hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Catherine Reeves. I felt cold. Catherine Reeves was the divorce attorney who specialized in high net worth separations. She was ruthless, strategic, and had a reputation for destroying wealthy husbands in court. 4 months ago, she's been planning this for a while. For months. Since before I brought Vanessa to our bed. Which meant Doris had suspected long before she confirmed. Find her, I said. I don't care what it costs. Boss, Reeves already sent a letter to your lawyer. It's very clear. Any attempt to contact Mrs. Carrillo will result in restraining orders and possible publicity. She's serious. I'm serious too. Find her. I'll try. But she planned for this. She knew you'd look. She's 10 steps ahead. After Vincent hung up, I sat in the dark office trying to process. Doris had spent 4 months planning to leave me. For months of smiling and making coffee and pretending everything was fine. For months of strategic patience while I continued my affair, confident she'd never leave. I'd been played. By my own wife. By the woman I'd underestimated completely. And the worst part? I had no one to blame but myself. Real question. Do you feel bad for Raphael? Or are you cheering for Doris? Option A. He's getting what he deserves. Option B. Everyone deserves a second chance. Option C. Both can be true. Drop your answer because this is about to get worse for Raphael. If you're not subscribed, subscribe now because this story shows exactly how a powerful man falls apart when he loses the only thing that actually mattered. I need to tell you about the night I destroyed my marriage. Not the night Doris left. That was just the consequence. I'm talking about 3 months before when I made the decision that ended everything. It was a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were when I usually met Vanessa. She had standing appointments at some salon and would be free by 8 p.m. Doris had mentioned she had a charity gala that night. Some fundraiser for children's hospitals or arts programs or something that required her presence, but not mine. I made an excuse about business meetings. She'd smiled, that careful smile she'd developed over the years, and said, "Of course. I understand." I should have heard the resignation in her voice. Instead, I heard permission. Vanessa and I had been seeing each other for 18 months at that point. She was 26, worked as a marketing consultant, which mostly meant she had flexible hours and didn't ask questions about my actual business. She was beautiful in a generic way, blonde, fit, always perfectly made up. She was also completely forgettable. The apartment I kept for her was being renovated. Some water damage from the unit above. She'd been complaining about the hotel I'd put her in. So I made a decision that would haunt me forever. "Why don't you come to my place?" I'd suggested. "My wife's out for the evening. We'll have the penthouse to ourselves." Vanessa had been thrilled. She'd been asking to see where I lived for months. I'd always refused, some boundaries even I recognized. But that night, I was arrogant enough to think I could have everything. We arrived at the penthouse around 9 p.m. Vanessa walked through with wide eyes, touching expensive surfaces, exclaiming about the view. "This is incredible, Raph. You live like a king." "I'm a king," I'd said, pulling her close. "In every way that matters." We'd had wine, talked about nothing, and eventually ended up in a master bedroom. Mine and Doris's bedroom, the bed we'd shared for 3 years before I'd started preferring the guest room. I didn't think about Doris. Didn't think about betrayal or consequences. I just thought about my own gratification. We were in bed. Vanessa sprawled across sheets Doris had picked out, wearing lingerie I'd bought her with money from businesses Doris helped legitimize when I heard the front door open. I froze. "Raphael." Doris's voice from the entryway. "Are you home? I saw your car." Shit. I was out of bed, scrambling for clothes. "Get dressed. Now." I thought you said she'd be out all night. The event must have ended early. "Just be quiet." But it was too late. I heard footsteps in the hallway, coming toward the bedroom. The door opened, and Doris stood there, still in her evening gown. Emerald green, elegant. The dress I'd told her looked beautiful before dismissing the entire event as unimportant, holding her clutch purse and car keys. She looked at me, standing beside the bed in my underwear, obviously caught. Then she looked at Vanessa, half-dressed, frozen in the middle of our bed. Then she looked at me again, and I'll never forget her expression. It wasn't anger. It wasn't a shock. It wasn't even hurt in the way I'd expected. It was something worse, resignation. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. Like she'd suspected for months and was almost relieved to have confirmation. Like she'd already made her peace with what I'd been doing and was now just collecting evidence. She stood there for exactly 5 seconds. Then she turned around and walked out. Didn't scream. Didn't cry. Didn't slam the door. Just closed it quietly behind her. I heard her footsteps retreat. Heard the front door open and close. Heard her car start in the garage below. And then she was gone. Vanessa broke the silence. "Oh my God. Raphael, I'm so sorry. I didn't know she'd." "Get out." "What?" "Get dressed and get out. Now." I pulled on clothes, already strategizing. This was bad but manageable. Doris would be upset. We'd have a fight. I'd apologize, promise to end things with Vanessa, give her some expensive jewelry. It would blow over. It always did. Except it didn't. Doris came home 2 hours later. I'd been waiting in the living room, prepared for confrontation. She walked past me without a word, went to the bedroom, changed into pajamas, came back out, and poured herself a glass of wine. "Doris, we need to talk." "About what?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. "About what you saw." "I can explain." "Can you?" She took a sip of wine. "Raphael, you don't owe me an explanation. We both know what this marriage is." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you've been cheating on me for over a year. That you come home smelling like someone else's perfume. That you stopped sleeping in our bed 6 months ago. That you take business trips that have nothing to do with business." "It is still there." If you knew, why didn't you say anything? What would be the point? You're Rafael Carrillo. You do what you want. I'm just the wife. The accessory. The woman who makes you look legitimate. That's not true, isn't it? Doris finally looked at me, and her eyes were empty. Rafael, I don't have the energy to fight you anymore. I don't have the strength to pretend this is a real marriage. So let's just not talk about this. Okay, Doris, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Good night. She'd walked away, closed the bedroom door, and that was it. No fight. No tears. No demands. Just resignation. And I'd thought I'd won. Thought she'd accepted this was how things were, and we could move forward. I didn't realize she was already planning to leave. That every day of silence was another day she was preparing her escape. That I'd just shown her exactly who I was, and she decided I wasn't worth fighting for. The next morning, Doris made me coffee, asked about my schedule, smiled when I kissed her goodbye. Everything was normal. I'd called Vanessa that afternoon, told her we needed to cool things off for a while. She'd been disappointed, but understanding. And I'd convinced myself I'd dodged a bullet. That Doris was going to be fine. That we'd move past this. Now, sitting in my office with her divorce letter, I understood the truth. She'd moved past it. Moved past me. Moved past our entire marriage while I remained oblivious. And by the time I realized what was happening, she was already gone. 2 weeks after Doris left, I still had nothing. Vincent had deployed every resource at our disposal. Private investigators, hackers, contacts in law enforcement. Nothing. Doris Vale had vanished as completely as if she'd never existed. It's like she studied how we track people and did the opposite of everything Vincent reported in my office. No digital footprint. No credit card use. No phone pings. No contact with family we can trace. What about her father? Stonewall. His lawyer sent a cease and desist. Apparently, Mrs. Carrillo's family has been instructed not to communicate with you. I slammed my fist on the desk. I'm not some stalker. She's my wife. Legally, she's your soon-to-be ex-wife. And she has the right to privacy during separation proceedings. I don't care about her rights. I need to find her. Vincent looked at me carefully. Boss, can I speak freely? When have you not? Maybe you should let her go. The words hit like a physical blow. What? She planned this for months. She anticipated everything you'd do. She doesn't want to be found. Vincent leaned forward. And respectfully, sir, can you blame her? Watch yourself. I'm just saying, she caught you with your mistress. In your bed. And instead of fighting, she just left. That's not anger. That's someone who's done. Who's made peace with losing you and moved on. She hasn't moved on. She can't have moved on in 2 weeks. Maybe she moved on months ago. Maybe she moved on the night she found you with Vanessa, and everything since then has been a strategy. The words stung because they were true. I need to see her. To explain. Explain what? That you're sorry? That you'll change? Boss, you've been cheating on her for 18 months. She knows who you are, and she decided she'd rather have nothing than have this. I wanted to argue. Wanted to rage at Vincent for his insubordination. Instead, I just felt tired. Keep looking, I said. That's an order. Yes, sir. Catherine Reeves, Doris's lawyer, called me directly 3 days later. Mr. Carrillo, I thought we should speak directly rather than through intermediaries. Where's my wife? That's not your concern. Mrs. Carrillo is safe, well, and has no interest in contact with you. I have the right to speak with her. Actually, you don't. She's an adult who's chosen to end your marriage. She doesn't owe you her location or her time. I want to apologize. Then write a letter. I'll make sure she receives it. But Mr. Carrillo, Catherine's voice hardened. If you or your people continue attempting to locate my client through surveillance, investigation, or harassment of her family, I will pursue restraining orders and I will make sure this becomes very public. Is that clear? The threat of publicity made me pause. My business required a certain level of legitimacy. Messy divorces with stalking allegations were bad for that image. Fine. No more active searches. Good. Now let's discuss terms. Mrs. Carrillo is not seeking alimony, property division, or any portion of your assets. She simply wants the marriage dissolved as quickly as possible. I was stunned. She doesn't want anything. She wants her freedom. That's all. Sign the papers when they arrive. Don't contest anything. And this can be finalized in 6 months. What if I refuse? Then we go to court, and I will present detailed evidence of your affairs, your criminal associations, and every way you violated your marriage vows. It will be expensive, public, and you'll lose anyway. Mrs. Carrillo would prefer to handle this quietly. I suggest you let her. The line went dead. I sat staring at my phone, processing what I'd just heard. Doris didn't want my money, didn't want revenge, didn't want anything except out, which somehow made it worse. Because it meant she was so done with me that even taking my wealth wasn't worth the extra time in my orbit. I ended things with Vanessa that night. She was at the apartment I'd been paying for, wearing lingerie I'd bought her, expecting our usual evening. Instead, I handed her an envelope. What's this? Severance. 6 months rent paid in full. 20,000 cash. We're done. What? Raphael, I don't understand. My wife left me. Because of you. Because of what we were doing. But I thought you said she knew. That she accepted it. I was wrong. About a lot of things. I moved toward the door. I'll have the apartment lease transferred to your name. After that, we're done. Don't contact me. Raphael, wait. Goodbye, Vanessa. I walked out and didn't look back. The truth was, Vanessa had never mattered. She'd been a symptom of a disease I hadn't known I had. The arrogant belief that I could have everything without losing anything. That I could betray my wife and keep her loyalty. That I could treat Doris as an accessory and still have her love. That power meant I didn't have to choose. But I'd been wrong. And by the time I realized it, the only person I'd ever actually wanted was gone. The divorce papers arrived 4 weeks after Doris left. I read through them in my office, Vicente standing by in case I needed anything. Every page was a reminder of what I destroyed. Marriage to be dissolved on grounds of irreconcilable differences. Petitioner seeks no financial compensation from respondent. All marital property to remain with respondent. She was walking away with nothing, which meant she valued being away from me more than she valued anything I could give her. I picked up my pen, stared at the signature line. You don't have to sign today, Vincent said quietly. Why wouldn't I? Because once you sign, it's over. Actually over. It's already over. This just makes it official. I signed my name, Rafael Carrillo. The signature that authorized millions in deals, that ended business relationships, that had signed death warrants. Now, I was into my marriage. I set down the pen, pushed the papers across the desk. Send these back to Catherine Reeves. Boss, just do it. After Vincent left, I sat alone in my office overlooking a city I controlled. I had everything, except the only thing I'd ever actually needed. Okay, so Raphael is literally watching his entire world collapse because he spent years taking his wife for granted. And now she's gone, wants nothing from him, and he's signing divorce papers like he's signing his own death certificate. If you're not subscribed and eating this up, what are you even doing? Hit that button. Comment. Is this karma or is this just sad? Let me know. 3 more chapters, and it gets even more devastating. 6 months after Doris left, I sat in my penthouse and tried to remember what purpose felt like. The divorce was finalized. Doris was no longer my wife. Legally, formally, permanently. She was just gone. I'd thrown myself into work, expanded territory, made deals, eliminated competition, all the things that used to give me purpose. None of it meant anything. Vincent had noticed. Boss, you need to take a break. Maybe take a trip. Clear your head. My head is fine. With respect, it's not. You're working 16-hour days, not sleeping, barely eating. You look like hell. I look like a man running an empire. You look like a man running from something. He wasn't wrong, because every time I stopped working, every moment of silence, I thought about Doris, about the way she'd looked in the doorway that night, resigned, disappointed, done, about the coffee she used to make, the way she'd ask about my day, even when she knew I'd lie about where I'd been. about the small kindnesses I'd taken for granted and now missed with an intensity that felt like drowning. I'd kept the penthouse exactly as it was when she left. Her side of the closet still empty. Her absence of presence I couldn't escape. I should have sold it, bought something new, started over. Instead, I lived in a mausoleum of my own making. Some nights, I'd wake up and forget she was gone. Would reach for her side of the bed and find nothing. That moment of realization, every single time, felt like being shot. You should date, Vincent suggested one afternoon. Get back out there. I'm still in love with my ex-wife. Then maybe you should tell her that. She doesn't want to hear it. Catherine Reeves made that very clear. Did she? Or did she say Doris doesn't want to be harassed? Vincent leaned back. There's a difference between showing up uninvited and, I don't know, sending a letter. Something that gives her the choice to respond. I thought about it. A letter. Apologizing. Explaining. Begging for a chance to make it right. She wouldn't read it. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I know Doris. She's not impulsive. She's not emotional. She planned to leave me for months. She's not going to change her mind because I wrote her a letter. Then what's your plan? Just live in regret forever. That seems to be working so far. Vincent shook his head. With respect, boss, you're miserable. And it's starting to affect business. People are noticing. Let them notice. Raphael, Vincent only used my first name when he was genuinely concerned. You lost your wife. I get that. But you can't lose yourself too. At some point, you have to accept what happened and move forward. I don't know how to do that. Then figure it out. Because the alternative is watching you slowly destroy yourself. And I've been with you too long to watch that happen. I tried dating. Lasted 2 dinners before I gave up. The first woman was beautiful, intelligent, charming. Everything I should want. I spent the entire meal comparing her to Doris. The second woman was different, bolder, more aggressive, the opposite of Doris in every way. I left before dessert arrived. Because the problem wasn't finding someone new. The problem was that no one would ever be Doris. No one would ever be the woman who'd loved me when I didn't deserve it. Who'd stood by me through 3 years of neglect and betrayal. Who'd been strong enough to leave when I finally pushed her too far. I'd had everything with Doris. A partner. A companion. Someone who saw past the Mafia boss to the man underneath. And I destroyed it for what? For Vanessa? A woman whose last name I couldn't remember now? For affairs that meant nothing except momentary distraction? For the ego boost of believing I could have everything? The trade had been catastrophic. I'd given up something irreplaceable for something worthless. And there was no going back. 1 year after the divorce, I ran into Doris's father. Lauri Sivali, shipping magnate. Legitimate businessman who'd always looked at me with barely concealed disdain. We were at the same restaurant. Him with business associates, me alone because eating alone had become my new normal. He saw me. I saw him. For a moment, I thought he'd ignore me. Instead, he walked over to my table. Raphael. Lawrence. I stood. How are you? Better than you, from the looks of it. He studied me. You look terrible. It's been a difficult year. I imagine it has. He paused. Doris is doing well, in case you were wondering. My heart stuttered. She is very well. She's found herself, discovered who she is outside of being your wife. Lawrence's expression was hard. You broke my daughter, Raphael. I've never forgiven you for that. I know. I don't forgive myself either. Good. You shouldn't. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, she's happy now. Happier than she ever was with you. So if you're harboring any fantasies about reconciliation, let them go. She's moved on. You should too. He walked away, leaving me standing beside my table feeling like I'd been gutted. Doris was happy. Without me. Which was what I'd wanted, right? For her to be okay. So why did knowing she was better off without me feel like the worst thing in the world? 18 months after the divorce, I finally understood what I'd lost. Not intellectually, I'd understood that from the beginning. But viscerally, completely, in a way that made it impossible to pretend anymore. I was at a business dinner. Some deal with the Russians that required my personal attention. The restaurant was expensive, exclusive, the kind of place where mafia bosses and legitimate businessmen mixed freely because money made everyone equal. I was in the middle of negotiations when I saw her. Not Doris, but a woman who looked like her. Same build, same hair color, same way of moving. My heart stopped. She turned around, and of course it wasn't her. Just a stranger who happened to share some features. But in that moment, the disappointment was so profound I couldn't breathe. Mr. Carrillo? The Russian across from me looked concerned. Are you all right? Fine. Just thought I saw someone I knew. We continued the meeting, but my head wasn't in it. All I could think about was Doris. Where she was. What she was doing. If she ever thought about me. And I realized something devastating. I was never going to stop loving her. Not in a year. Not in 10 years. Not ever. Because Doris hadn't just been my wife. She'd been the only person who'd ever made me want to be better than I was. The only person who'd looked at me and seen potential instead of just power. The only person who'd made our penthouse feel like a home instead of just expensive real estate. And I'd thrown that away for nothing. That night, I did something I've been avoiding for 18 months. I wrote her a letter. Not through Catherine Reeves. Not asking for anything. Just words I needed to say, even if she never read them. Dear Doris, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you've moved on, and I should too. But I need you to know something, even if you never respond. I was wrong. About everything. I was wrong to think I could have you and betray you. Wrong to think your silence meant acceptance. Wrong to take your love for granted and assume it would always be there no matter how badly I treated you. I was wrong to bring Vanessa into our home. Wrong to carry on affairs while you waited up for me. Wrong to choose empty distraction over real connection. But most of all, I was wrong to underestimate you. You were never weak. You were never submissive. You were strategic, patient, strong enough to leave when I deserved to be left. I spent 3 years married to you and never really saw you. Never appreciated what I had until it was gone. I know this letter doesn't change anything. I know you're better off without me. Your father made that very clear. And I know I don't deserve forgiveness or second chances or anything except the regret I live with every day. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I lost, what I threw away, what I destroyed through arrogance and entitlement, and the fundamental belief that I was too powerful to be held accountable. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was the worst thing that ever happened to you. I'm sorry. For all of it. For every moment of pain. For every betrayal. For not being the man you deserved. I hope wherever you are, you're happy. You deserve that more than anyone I've ever known. Raphael. I sealed the envelope. Addressed it to Catherine Reeves with instructions to forward it to Doris if she was willing to receive it. And I sent it knowing I'd probably never hear back. But at least I'd said what I needed to say. At least she'd know I finally understood. 3 weeks later, I got a response. Not from Doris. From Catherine Reeves. Mr. Carrillo, Mrs. Vale received your letter and asked me to convey the following. She appreciates your apology and understands you've experienced personal growth. However, she has no interest in resuming contact or revisiting the past. She wishes you well and asks that you respect her decision. Regards, Catherine Reeves. Mrs. Vale, not Mrs. Carrillo. She'd gone back to her maiden name, erased every trace of our marriage from her identity, and she wished me well. The kindness somehow made it worse than anger would have, because it meant she'd moved so far past me that she could afford to be generous, could afford to wish me well, because I no longer had any power to hurt her. I was just someone she used to know, someone she'd moved on from completely. 2 years after the divorce, I'd accepted my fate. This was my life now. Successful, powerful, wealthy, and profoundly alone. The penthouse still sat empty except for me. I'd finally donated Doris's remaining items. Things I'd kept for reasons I couldn't explain. Her favorite tea, books she'd left behind, small objects that had once been hers. It was time to let go. Work consumed me. The empire grew. Money accumulated. None of it meant anything. I'd become exactly what I'd always been afraid of becoming, my father. He'd been powerful, wealthy, and completely isolated. Had died alone in his office at 72, surrounded by luxury and lacking anyone who genuinely mourned him. I was heading toward the same fate. Vincent had finally given up trying to fix me. You're determined to be miserable, aren't you? I'm determined to accept reality. Reality is what you make it. Reality is that I destroyed the best thing in my life, and now I get to live with that. That's not pessimism. That's just fact. You know what your problem is? I'm sure you'll tell me. You've made Doris into a ghost. This perfect memory of what you lost. But she was never perfect, boss. She was just a woman. A woman you hurt who decided to leave. That's not tragedy. That's the consequences. I know that. Do you? Because you're living like a monk in penance for sins that can't be forgiven. At some point, you have to forgive yourself and move on. I don't deserve to move on. That's not for you to decide. Doris moved on. Why can't you? Because I still love her. Then you're in love with a ghost. Because the woman you married doesn't exist anymore. She's whoever she became after leaving you. And you don't know that person. Vincent was right. But knowing he was right didn't change how I felt. That weekend, I did something I'd avoided for 2 years. I went to the grocery store. Not the expensive delivery service I usually used. An actual grocery store because I was out of coffee and couldn't be bothered to wait for delivery. It was mundane, normal, the kind of ordinary activity I'd avoided because ordinary reminded me too much of what I'd lost. I was in the coffee aisle, debating between brands I didn't care about when I heard a laugh. Her laugh. I froze, turned slowly, and there she was. Doris, my ex-wife, the woman I'd spent 2 years trying to forget, standing 20 feet away in the produce section, laughing at something, looking radiant. She changed, not drastically, but noticeably. Her hair was different, shorter, lighter. She was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater I'd never seen. No makeup, or at least not the careful makeup she used to wear to events. She looked younger, lighter, free, and she was smiling, genuinely smiling, in a way I'd never seen in 3 years of marriage. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. She hadn't seen me yet. I could leave, should leave. This wasn't the place for a confrontation. But I couldn't move, because seeing her happy, genuinely, luminously happy, was both the best and worst thing that had happened to me in 2 years. Best because it meant she was okay. Better than okay. Worse because it confirmed what her father had said. She was better off without me. Then she turned. Our eyes met across the produce section, and I watched her process my presence in real time. Shock, recognition, then something I couldn't quite read. She could run, could pretend she hadn't seen me, could disappear back into her new life. Instead, she took a breath, said something to the woman she'd been talking with, and walked toward me. Toward me. Every step felt like an eternity. Doris stopped a few feet away. Up close, the changes were even more obvious. She looked healthy, rested. There was a peace in her eyes that had never been there when we were married. Raphael. Her voice was calm, friendly, even, like I was an old acquaintance instead of the man who'd broken her heart. Doris. My voice cracked. You look well. Thank you. So do you. It was polite, generic, the kind of thing you say to someone you barely know. I didn't know you still lived in the city. I don't. I moved upstate about a year ago. I'm just visiting friends. She gestured vaguely. How have you been? How had I been? Miserable, regretful, living in the penthouse where I destroyed our marriage like a ghost haunting my own life. Busy. Work is work. Good. That's good. We stood in awkward silence. Two people who'd once been married and now had nothing to say to each other. I got your letter, Doris said finally. From last year. I know. Your lawyer told me you received it. I wanted to respond personally, but I thought it might be better to keep distance. For both of us. I understand. Do you? She studied me with those calm eyes. Because you looked devastated. Just now. When you saw me. There was no point lying. Because you look happy. And it confirms what I already knew. Which is that you're better off without me. That leaving me was the best decision you ever made. Doris was quiet for a moment. It was hard. Leaving. I'd built my entire identity around being your wife, being Mrs. Raphael Carrillo. When that ended, I had to figure out who Doris Vale actually was. And did you? Figure it out. I'm still figuring it out. But yes, I found myself. Or maybe I'm finding myself. It's a process. She smiled slightly. Therapy helps. You're in therapy? I've been since I left. Turns out 3 years of being systematically betrayed leaves some damage to work through. The words hit like a physical blow. Doris, I'm so sorry. I know you are. I read your letter, and I believe you mean it. She took a breath. But Raphael, your apology doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't erase 3 years of coming home smelling like someone else. It doesn't erase finding you in our bed with your mistress. It doesn't erase all the times you chose her over me. I know I can't undo any of it. Then what do you want? From this conversation? What did I want? I wanted to tell her I still loved her. That I'd never stopped. That every day without her felt like dying slowly. I wanted to beg her to come back. To give me another chance. To let me prove I could be the man she deserved. I wanted to turn back time and make different choices. But none of that mattered. Because standing in front of me was a woman who'd healed. Who'd moved on. Who'd built a life that didn't include me. And I had no right to disrupt that. I want you to know I understand now. What I lost. What I destroyed. What you meant to me and how badly I failed you. Okay, I'm glad you understand. And I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not because I want you back. I know that's not possible. But because you deserve better, and I'm sorry I wasn't capable of giving it to you. Doris's eyes softened slightly. Thank you. That means something. Really. You're happy now? Truly happy. I'm getting there. Some days are better than others. But yes, I'm happy. Happier than I was. Good. You deserve that. So do you. I laughed bitterly. I don't think I do. Raphael. Doris reached out, almost touched my arm, then pulled back. You're not a monster. You're just a man who made bad choices. Who hurt people. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve happiness. It just means you have to work for it. I don't know how to do that without you. Then learn. Because I can't be your reason for healing. That has to come from you. We stood in the grocery store, surrounded by ordinary people buying ordinary things, having an extraordinary conversation. I should go, Doris said finally. My friend is waiting. Of course. I'm sorry for keeping you. You didn't keep me. I chose to talk to you. She smiled, kind distant, final. Take care of yourself, Raphael. I mean that. You too, Doris. She turned to walk away. Doris. She stopped, looked back. Thank you. For talking to me. For being kind when you didn't have to be. We were married for 3 years. I don't hate you, Raphael. I just don't love you anymore. And that's okay. It's how healing works. I still love you. The words escaped before I could stop them. Doris's expression didn't change. I know, but that's something you have to work through. Because I'm not coming back. Not now. Not ever. This is goodbye, Raphael. Real goodbye. I know. Do you? Because I need you to understand. I moved on. Completely. The woman you married? She doesn't exist anymore. I'm someone different now. Someone who's learned to value herself. Who won't accept less than she deserves. Who knows that love without respect is just pretty words covering ugly actions. I understand. Good. She took a breath. I forgive you, Raphael. For all of it. Not because you've earned it, but because holding on to anger was poisoning me. So I forgive you. And I release you. And I wish you well. But we're done. Forever. She walked away. Into the sunlight streaming through the store's windows. And I watched her go, knowing I'd never see her again. That this was it. The final goodbye I'd been too arrogant to see coming 2 years ago. I stood in that grocery store for 10 minutes after she left. People moved around me, shopping for dinner, living their ordinary lives. And I processed what had just happened. Doris had forgiven me. Not because I deserved it, but because she needed to for her own healing. And she'd moved on. Completely. Finally, the woman I'd married was gone. In her place was someone I didn't know. Someone stronger, happier, freer. Someone better off without me. Which is what I'd wanted, right? For her to be okay. So why did it feel like someone had reached into my chest and torn out my heart? Real talk. Did Doris handle this reunion perfectly, or was she too kind to Raphael? Option A. Perfect. She was kind but firm, forgave for her own peace. Option B. Too kind. He deserved more anger. Option C. Just right. This is what actual healing looks like. Drop your answers. And if you're not subscribed for this emotional climax, what are you even doing? One more phase, and we see where both of them end up. 5 years after the divorce, I sat in my office overlooking the city and thought about choices. The empire was larger now. More territories, more money, more power. I was 57 years old at the height of my influence and completely alone. Vincent had retired 2 years ago, married a woman who made him laugh, moved to Florida, sent me photos of grandchildren I'd never meet. I'd replaced him with younger men. Competent, loyal, but not friends. Just employees. Because that's what I'd become. A man with employees but no friends. With power but no intimacy. With everything money could buy and nothing it couldn't. The penthouse sat empty. I finally sold it last year, bought something smaller. Less haunted. But every home I'd lived in since felt temporary. Like I was waiting for something that would never come. I'd never remarried. Dated occasionally. Always women who understood this wasn't serious. Because the truth was, I'd already had my great love. And I destroyed it. Some mistakes you don't recover from. Some losses you just learn to live with. Doris was mine. I'd heard things over the years. Through mutual acquaintances I'd never quite lost contact with. She'd started her own business. Something with interior design or event planning. I couldn't remember the details. She'd traveled. Places we'd always talked about visiting, but never did because I was always too busy. She'd dated. Maybe seriously. Maybe not. None of my business anymore. She'd lived. While I just existed. Last week I saw a photograph. Some charity event I hadn't attended. Doris was in one of the photos, stunning in a green dress, laughing with friends, looking exactly like the woman I'd glimpsed in that grocery store 5 years ago. Happy. Free. Herself. The caption mentioned she'd recently gotten engaged to someone named Michael, an architect, according to the article. My heart had done something complicated when I read that. Pain, yes, but also relief. Because she'd found someone. Someone who hopefully treated her the way I should have. Someone who deserved her. I'd sent a gift through an intermediary. Just a donation to her business in congratulations. I never know if she knew it was for me, but it felt like the right thing to do. The final gesture of letting go. This morning I was going through old files and found our wedding photos. I'd kept them despite everything. Hidden in a box I never opened. But today, for reasons I couldn't explain, I pulled them out. There we were. Her in white. Me in a tux. Both of us were smiling. Doris's smile was real. Genuine. Full of hope. Mine was confident. Arrogant. The smile of a man who thought he had everything figured out. I didn't recognize that man anymore. Didn't recognize the arrogant fool who thought power meant he could have anything without consequences. Who thought his wife's love was infinite and unconditional. Who destroyed the best thing in his life because he was too stupid to understand what he had. I closed the box. Put it away. It was time. Tonight, I'll have dinner alone. Like I do most nights. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and run my empire. Make decisions. Exercise power. Command respect. And I'll go through the motions of a life that stopped meaning anything the night I came home to find Doris gone. This is my punishment. Not prison. Not violence. Not any physical consequence. Just loneliness. Just the knowledge that I had everything and lost it through my own choices. Just the understanding that some mistakes you don't recover from. You just learn to live with them. People ask me sometimes if I have any regrets. I always say no, because in my world, regret is weakness. But the truth? I regret everything. Every affair. Every lie. Every moment I took Doris for granted. Every choice that led to her walking out of my life. If I could go back, if I could tell that arrogant 42-year-old version of myself anything, I'd tell him this. Power means nothing without someone to share it with. Wealth is meaningless without love. And the only thing in this world worth having is someone who sees past the monster to the man underneath. I had that, and I destroyed it. Now I live with the consequences. A king in an empty castle. A powerful man with nothing that actually matters. A ghost haunting my own life. Somewhere across the city, Doris is probably planning her wedding, laughing with friends, excited about her future, living the life she deserves. A life that doesn't include me. And that's exactly how it should be. Because she deserves happiness, deserves love, deserves someone who treats her the way I never did. I hope Michael is good to her. I hope he understands what he has. I hope he never makes the mistakes I made. And I hope Doris has the life I was too blind to give her. As for me, I'll keep building my empire, keep making money, keep exercising power, and I'll die exactly like my father did, wealthy, powerful, and profoundly alone. Because some mistakes you don't recover from. You just learn to live with them. And that is the story of Rafael Carrillo, a man who had everything and lost the only thing that actually mattered because he was too arrogant to understand love isn't something you can control or take for granted. Doris got her happy ending. Rafael got exactly what he deserved: wealth, power, and eternal loneliness. If you're not subscribed after this devastating journey, I genuinely don't understand you. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Do you feel bad for Rafael, or is this perfect karma? Let me know. Thanks for watching this heartbreaking story of consequences, regret, and the price of arrogance.